Hey there, do you have hip clicks when you're doing your Pilates classes? I see you, I feel you. I used to have them too. And we're going to talk about why they're happening and how to get rid of them so you can enjoy your next Pilates session.
Welcome to OnlinePilatesClasses.com, the most supportive Pilates-loving community across the globe. Enjoy new weekly classes from our amazing teachers. Download the OnlinePilatesClasses.com app today.
Hi, I'm Lesley Logan, co-founder of OnlinePilatesClasses.com. I've been doing Pilates since 2005 and teaching since 2008, and I had hip clicks for years. And oftentimes I was told to make my circles smaller or turn my leg out more. And what I discovered is the more I engaged all the muscles around my legs and moved my legs from my center, the less hip clicks I had. And so we're going to dive into how to help you with the hip clicks that you have. So what are hip clicks anyways? Well, they are a click or a clunk sound that you hear in and around your hip when you are usually doing single leg exercises like single leg circles, single leg stretch. It could even be single straight leg stretch or scissors. You can have them with two legs. They tend to be a sign of where your body is not working from, but there's less steadiness or strength or connection, so your body's not moving from your center, and less of a sign that there's something wrong with you. Pilates is here to balance our imbalances, and clicks and clunks are really a audible sound of an imbalance in our body's muscular movement as we are moving. If you're interested in enjoying and exploring some mat in a more slower or foundational class, we actually have a 25-minute mat practice for beginners, so check it out here. So why are the hip clicks happening anyways? Well, here's the deal. So when you move your leg in Pilates, up, down, out, in, or in circles, if you are moving faster than your center can control it, then you're likely going to have some dominant muscles that are overworking and some less dominant muscles underworking, which can cause an imbalance in how the femur is moving inside the hip socket. And then you get that little clunk, clunk, click, click, right? Or it is just simply that you are moving at the pace your center can control, but the rest of the muscles around the thigh are not turning on. So your dominant ones, typically the hip flexors, so all this good stuff up here is like got your leg, holding your hip up high, and then you're imbalanced in how your center is working. And so your leg is doing the choreography, but the muscles that could support the femur inside the hip socket are not working. In Pilates, your center is actually not just your abs. Your center is actually the muscles around your hips, your torso, including the muscles around your back and your upper back, right? So when your leg is moving, if you think of the leg just going up, down, out, in as a two-dimensional movement, instead of thinking how your leg is working out and in from your center, it's really easy to get those hip clicks, especially when you're newer to Pilates. But luckily, there are exercises you can do that can strengthen the imbalances. And there's often some ways you can check in on the movement to see if you're actually doing the choreography correctly. Because sometimes we are straightening the leg, but we're really actually just straightening the knee. We'll get more into that in a second. So when are you most likely to notice clicking? Well, we talked about a few exercises. I'm going to demonstrate them here on the mat so we have a visual. But I often hear about them happening from people during single leg circles. So typically what happens is the leg comes up and then the hip hikes. So if I do it on this side, instead of my hips being even, their hip hikes up towards their rib cage and then they're circling. And that is where the click is going to happen because the pelvis is uneven. It's not steady. It's not stable. So what happens is a lot of people just make them smaller, which actually just trains that dominant muscle to keep gripping and hiking up instead of potentially taking the leg a little lower and circling in a bigger oval to gather up the strength of the inner thigh, hamstring, outer hip. You often will feel the hip clicks in single leg stretch when the leg is going out and in, bending and straightening. That will often happen when the leg goes out and drops down because these muscles at the back of the leg are not part of the exercise. So the leg just falls down and now you're hanging off of your top muscles of your body, right? Instead of going out and pulling in, almost like you're pushing the thigh bone away. Sometimes I hear or see people get hip clicks when they just instead of taking the leg away from them from the bodies in the center, they'll go out and then up with the leg, a little hyperextension in the knee. Again, turning off some of the muscles. And so then there's an imbalance in what they're doing. So it can happen when you're circling, bending and straightening. And it's going to appear when you're actually just moving outside of the center, and often when you're stuck more in the choreography. They'll also happen if you're worried that you're about to have a hip click. So then you start to move slowly and with more tension, and then you tend to let go of the muscles that are supporting that while you're doing it. And then you're like, am I going to do it? Am I going to do it? Oh, there it is. Because it feels uncomfortable, right? You may also notice or feel these hip clicks when you are kind of going through momentum or letting the legs just drop. So in scissors, a lot of people just go too low. And so instead of actually letting the leg only go as low as it can be held up from the center, then when it goes too low, again, you let go of something has to be working, and then you get that little imbalance inside of the hip because of the momentum or the lack of connection through the center as you're doing it. In all of these cases, the thing to note is when you're feeling those things, it's just a sign that there's an imbalance of muscular connection in the movement. If you want to deep dive into some of these foundational exercises I've been showing where the hip clicks can happen, we actually included them as part of a workshop series and a 15-minute workout. It's great, it's free, and it's available to you at fullbodyinfifteen.com. So you can learn how to do the choreography from your center and then get the workout in. You can check out the link in the show notes or go to fullbodyinfifteen.com. So what hip clicks are not, right? So first I just want to say, if you're worried that it is there's an issue or something broken in you, it's not likely that. Definitely if there's pain associated with the hip click, you might want to have that looked at. But if it's just an uncomfortable, icky feeling and sound, then it's unlikely to be anything wrong with you. They're also not a sign that you're bad at Pilates. I think that's really important. We are all here to be in practice. And even today, after 20 years of doing Pilates and really identifying how to avoid hip clicks in my body and working the muscular strength in from my center, sometimes I still get them. They're a sign for me to go, oop, hold on, check back in with yourself. Your leg's not moving from your center, or something is not moving in coordination. And so I can do an extra rep or 3 to get myself back into position, back into my muscular strength. Which means they're also not something to push through or ignore. Like just going, oh, that's just my hip, it just clicks. No, or just making the circle tinier or smaller or turning out more. That is a great way to just get through that movement that day. But what you really want to be exploring is how to strengthen your muscular balance so you don't have them. So the moment you've been waiting for, how do we reduce these hip clicks after all? Well, I like to do these with exercises. I'm a big fan of what Joe used to do in his studio, which is he would see you do your mat, he would see you do your reformer, and he would understand what your body needed, and then he'd give you other exercises in the studio. And I really love doing that. On the mat, we have some great exercises that are going to balance the imbalances, right? You heard me say several different ways that the reason these hip clicks are happening is there's an imbalance in the way your movement is happening, right? So a few mat exercises you want to try out. We'll start with symmetrical ones first, because that's going to be the most beneficial for strengthening both legs at the same time. And then we'll talk about some things you can do with the magic circle. First, I want you to be paying attention to your double leg kick and your shoulder bridge. Double leg kick on the mat, one of my favorite exercises. There's so many different reasons why you should do it, but if you feel your hamstrings and glutes working in that and not your lower back bouncing around or just your calves doing the work, you are going to be doing yourself a great service in strengthening the back of your legs and your outer hips. Shoulder bridge, a great exercise to do also on your mat. You can do it anywhere, even at a gym. Really focusing on your knees staying forward, feet balanced through all 4 corners. When you roll it to the outsides of your feet, your inner thighs are not getting the same muscular challenge, which is going to affect your ability to ditch the hip click. If your inner thighs are not working when your leg is going around in a circle, you're gonna get that clunk, 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 right? That technical term. So if you have time to also do the single leg kick. This is an asymmetrical exercise, but is on the mat, but I think you'll notice a difference between the side that has the click and the side that doesn't. Make sure you're feeling a stretch across the front of the thigh, feeling the back of the legs turn on. If you are not feeling it in your legs or one of your legs, notice if it's the same one that's having the hip click. There's a tendency for the knees to get wider, and you might want to put a yoga block or ball between your knees when you do that exercise to get the inner thighs to work, and then that way the hamstrings and outer hips can do their part. Now I have a few other exercises that I find as great homework to do. They are wonderful for helping you turn on the muscles of the back of the leg so that you're not just making the circle smaller or turning out more. So if you have access to Balance Body's mini magic circle, This is one of my favorite ones. We have a full tutorial on our channel on how to use this. It's single leg circle, single leg press down on the mat with a magic circle. It's a mouthful, right? And you'll just press your leg down into the circle and lift it up. And you'll press and you'll lift it up, and you should be feeling the muscles right around where your hand can touch your thigh turning on. If you feel your knee doing it, or you feel like your quad is burning, we need to take a step back. We need to work on your single leg kick, double leg kick, shoulder bridge, and stretch the top of the leg a little bit more. The next one I like to do is the double leg magic circle press down. So 2 leg. I like it with a bigger magic circle just because your legs are a little heavier when you've got both of them on there. And then you can push both legs down into the magic circle. Again, you'll feel your lower abs engage, which is something you need to help stabilize your pelvis when you're doing these moves. And then you're pushing both legs into the circle. It will help you teach your legs what muscles should be on when my legs are out at that high diagonal. And then finally, as I mentioned earlier, sometimes when the hip click is happening in the single leg circles, you might want to consider doing ovals. If it's happening in single leg stretch or exercise where your leg goes from bent in to an out, then it is a sign that we are probably needing to look at how your leg is straightening, because it's probably going up on its way out or falling down on its way out. And therefore we do need to support it with the muscles around the back of your leg using exercises on the Cadillac like single leg springs, or the leg spring series is going to be helpful for that. If you would like to do some of these moves and some more, focusing on strengthening your glutes and your abs, check out my 30-minute mat class here with the magic circle. We will do those moves at the beginning and then incorporate that as you do the rest of the mat. In addition to strengthening your hamstrings and your glutes, you want to also be considering strengthening your deep core muscles and your inner thighs. So for inner thigh strength, I love the standing single leg springs on the Cadillac or tower. It's really wonderful. If you don't have access to that, there is a standing leg exercise with the magic circle here on our channel where you actually put the magic circle between your ankles and you do it standing. So I definitely recommend adding that in for inner thigh strength. For deep core muscular strength, understanding your two-way stretch is going to be really important. A two-way stretch is really how Pilates exists. We're not just working the legs and then working the arms. We're actually working the entire body in every single exercise. And when your upper body is going one way, your lower body is going another way. It's this two-way stretch. It's more than opposition because everything is working from the center. So if you have not taken the time to really deep dive in on the double leg stretch and really feel how long you can get in that and understand how your entire deep core muscles work, I highly recommend exploring that. If you have questions, you can just drop in the comments below. It's a very helpful exercise because you could have all the hamstring, glute, inner thigh, strength and balance that balances with your quad working in your circles and your single leg kick. But if your abs are not also working in that two-way stretch, then we'll have some compression. Something really important to note is that it's not about squeezing the glutes. In fact, Pilates is never about squeezing. It's about nothing overworking or underworking. You're working the entire body equally in every single movement you do. For some more tips on how to deal with overworking hip flexors, check out our video here on overworking your hip flexors, some simple moves that will help. So is there ever a reason you should pay closer attention to a hip click? Well, yes. If it is more than that icky discomfort, if it actually has pain or almost feels like a nerve charge, or it really does linger after the movement, you might want to go have an expert take a look at how your body is moving because there could be something deeper going on. If it is just that little click, click, and you feel that tissue going over a little bony landmark, and it's just uncomfortable and there's no residual pain, then it's a sign we have got to do some more muscular strength and review how you're doing the exercises. Thank you for joining me today. I love making these videos with you. I hope this gave you some thoughts to what you can work on next. And by the way, like I said, this entire hip click situation is something I suffered from, and it took me a long time to understand that it was more than just choreography or changing the size of the circle or how I move where I move my leg to on the wall. It was absolutely a cue and a sign that I had some work to do to balance the imbalances and get the most out of my Pilates practice. So I want that for you. If you're an OPC member and you have hip clicks, feel free to film yourself doing the exercise where you have a click and you get to send it into the community. There's tips on how to do that in our community app. If you're not an OPC member yet and you would like my help on the hip clicks that you're feeling, then join at onlinepilatesclasses.com/YouTube. I would love to see what you're doing so I can give you the tips and we can get rid of those clicks. Have an amazing day.